Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Want to welcome everyone to today's session. My name's Adam Kurtz, and I'm with Sylvan Software, and we'll be talking about the Stratum connectors today. The review of both the Excel and the Power BI Stratum connectors. So that's today's topic, and on the agenda is basically, looking at how this relates to the Stratum Data Hub. We'll have a quick review of Power BI and then how to connect Power BI to Stratum. And then we'll also look at leveraging Stratum and the viewer views, obviously to get the data from Stratum. And then we'll pivot over to the Excel connector, and then we'll take a look at that as well. And then we'll go into a demo and we'll reserve any questions for later. So here we have the Stratum Data Hub. On the left side of the hub, which is currently illuminated, is different options and ways of getting data into Stratum. And then on the right-hand side is getting data out of Stratum and analyzing the data accordingly. Down on the bottom right quadrant, as you can see, the Power BI connector and the Excel add-in there, both part of the Stratum Access Hub. So that's something that would need to be licensed. And if you have any questions about that, you can certainly discuss that with me offline, and we can talk about that further. What is Power BI? Well, it's definitely a Microsoft reporting tool. I found that initially when I started using it, it was pretty easy to get started, although it's a very powerful tool and can be quite intimidating depending on how deep you get into it. But initially, it was pretty simple to put together pretty, fairly decent, simple dashboards. It can be cost effective depending on the different levels of licensing that you could pursue. It has a lot of fully customizable visualization options, simple collaboration. You can upload your Power BI dashboard reports pretty easy. Getting other users involved is basically where this tool shines. So, and then of course all the different libraries of visualizations that you can download. I think you can actually build your own or develop your own. It gets pretty deep, but just some of the visualizations it comes with is pretty impressive. And you can now extend Stratum data into Power BI by using the Power BI connector to tap into the views, almost using a view as a gateway or a table to get data out of Stratum and into your Power BI report. So Power BI would obviously need a connector piece of software, and that's something that you can actually download and install. Have your administrator install it on your desktop, and you can, obviously it taps into the different views that you have available within Viewer within the Stratum interface. So pretty simple architecture, nothing really fancy. You just need a small plugin so that you can connect to the views within Viewer. And I believe you can just download that directly within Power BI. You can access the Microsoft App Store and you can download it from there. Once you do have it downloaded, you'll have an opportunity to connect to Stratum. You'll provide it the URL that you use to access Stratum, and you can then tap into the different views that you have, all the library of different views within the Stratum application, and then you can select which views that you want to bring into your Power BI report. As you can see there, I can select a view. It then shows me a quick snapshot of what the data looks like from the view. There are some ground view, general ground rules to remember when you're creating views for Power BI specifically is that, static headers are preferable. The If you turn totals off, that would rid you of any additional records or lines of data that you don't want. So different things like that that certainly we can get into in more detail as you start to develop the reports, or if you're using the connector, certainly you can contact me and we can talk about it. But very simple. Again, the idea here is that you want the view to look and behave basically like a simple table, with minimal, with static chain metadata, static headers, and so that, nothing changes essentially. So, because these basically get treated like tables, data sets, and if the headers change, then just like anything else within a table of a database, it can wreak havoc. So again, pretty simple general guidelines to adhere to. Once you learn those, you can really start tapping into the data and getting that free flowing into your Power BI desktop. Once you're in the Once you tap into the views that you want, as you can see there, I've got it highlighted on the right side of the screen, is the views then become available as data sets to your Power BI desktop. And then you can tap into them and get access to the different columns, the different pieces of data that you have within that view. Notice how the measures are highlighted with a sum or a sigma, I should say, character, indicating that that is basically numerical measure data. And then your levels below, customer sold to, division, long description, those would appear, obviously as levels, so that you can aggregate the data based on the different levels that you have within the view as well. So again, the building blocks of the view, measures and levels, so that obviously you want to include those here within the view, so that they become available within the data set within Power BI. Um, I'm not sure if I have a snapshot of that view, but we will take a look at the view, what it looks like. Again, it's not rocket science, but I think it would help you to visualize what the view looks like, so that you can build those accordingly. Okay, switching gears a little bit, going over to now Excel. So similarly, we have this concept of tapping into, having Power BI tapping into a connector. Well, we also have one for Excel. So a very similar concept here, where you would download from the Microsoft App Store the the Excel connector, and that would be a piece that again you would tap into. This would then provide you with the ability to connect to Stratum Viewer, connect to those views, and get download the data directly into Excel, ridding you from having to start within the interface, configuring the view, and then doing all that manually. Well, once you build the view, once you have the views available, then this becomes a process in which you would only have to go through once you build out your reports, and then you could then the tools themselves would refresh the data based on when you enter the file. There's settings actually that you can turn on, so that when you open the Excel file, it automatically goes out and fetches the data from Stratum. Um, well, we all know Excel, don't we? We've all been using it over the years, over the decades, for a long time now. So that's why we made it available for Excel, because we all know that Excel's not going anywhere, and many companies use it. It's cost effective. It can be, I should say. Uh, we all know it's fully custom. You can customize Excel. You've got Microsoft does a great job of adding in new features. The visualization options have gotten better. They're introducing AI features, which is interesting. But again, using Excel, I really don't have to sell you on why Excel is such a popular tool. It just is. It's just something that has been so ubiquitous within businesses. And let's face it, finance users, accounting folks, they prefer to use it. And then once you tap into those views,
As you can see, I can build out visualizations, maybe a pivot table there on the upper left-hand corner. Excel's done a nice job. Microsoft's done a good job of basically making similar visualizations available so that I can do a heat map there. So, in the upper right-hand corner, obviously all the standard traditional charting options are available, such as the bar chart below, of course. So, again, the concept here is to, use Excel or Power BI to build out fancy looking stuff um, that these tools provide. And then obviously, that's something that if the view is built properly and then you connect to it, that it would just continue to fetch the data accordingly. Um, so let's hop into a demo, and I can show you some of this as live product. But before we do that, that's my name, that's my email address, that's my phone number. Contact me if you have any questions, or if you want to pursue gaining access to these uh, uh, features. Just feel free to contact me and we can get you started. Okay, so now we're going to go over to our Power BI demo. And so here I've got an example of a Power BI report that I built using some views that I have within Stratum. If I expand this out a little bit, we can see over here on the right-hand side that I'm tapping into a couple of views, one called Sales Analysis Report, and another one called Power BI Comparative Sales. So yes, you can import more than one view and use multiple views, and if they have commonalities, those that will make it that much better because the Power BI desktop will behave and relate that much better. Um, Power BI, if you haven't used it, as you can see, it has a plethora of visualization options here. I'll show you how you can easily pop in maybe a pie chart and configure it as needed. And then, of course, the design layout pane there. This is where you do all the work. You insert the visuals, you properly size them, you configure them. Again, this is what the report looks like, obviously, and this is what the users will see when you deploy the report up to the cloud, right? So right now you're within your tool set, you're on the desktop. Nobody really gains access to this unless you start to save it and then you publish it. As you can see, there's a publish button up to the cloud to so that other users can tap into it. What that does that look like? It would look like a similar to what we have. Um, Again, access to my browser. So I have one here within my browser. So as you can see, I'm not in the tool any longer. I'm not in the desktop. I'm now gaining access to a report that was built. It's not the exact same report, but you get the idea that, I would then users would then use their browsers to gain access to the reports that analysts would design. And you would decide who would be those folks, who would be the appropriate people to give access for this too. But the concept here for just a regular user is they gain access to the report. They can then interact with the report, as you can see, clicking in on the different uh, product families. If I want to see like fruit fillings and what their sales are, see how obviously these relate to each other so that you can see that the different numbers that you get when you select different pie charts. As you can see, you can select more than just one. It's really nice. I mean, it's something that again with Microsoft brings to the table where you can really kind of get a better feel for things visually. And we also provide a way of getting to detail as well. So if I wanted to get more detail behind my canned fruit, I can then highlight canned fruit, and then we have a drill to button, which allows you to drill to Stratum from the Power BI report, and then you can gain access to the different canned fruits that are available because it filters the report accordingly because it knows that you are interested in canned fruit. If I were to come back and maybe select our frozen dinner option, I can also then drill to that detail, even though it's not as big, and then I can see what those products are for the frozen options. So instead of all the canned fruits, now the product is showing me details on the frozen dinners. And then if I wanted to see order level detail in this invoice level detail, it, now I'm in Stratum and I can get to that level of detail rather easily by drilling to those levels. So the concept here is, obviously when I drill to this level of detail, for instance, canned fruit being one of the bigger areas of my business, when I go to product level here, I get a lot of data. I get a fair amount of rows of information here. And, obviously this is not something that you would want on your dashboard. So being able to drill to this detail seamlessly without fumbling over filters and thinking about it. Really, at the end of the day, it really just kind of flows. So this really allows you to do that with the Stratum Drill to View button there, drill to detail. Okay, and so that's easy to configure. If we go back to the desktop, we can see that. I've got one here as well that I configured to this visual. So if I wanted to see, for instance, Patrick Hurley's numbers, well, the report shows me his numbers and I can see what he's doing, but I can also then drill to the report behind that visual and I can see that there's a filter on Patrick's numbers here. So these are Patrick's numbers at the product brand level. Maybe I want to see how he's doing at his customers. So he's got two big accounts that he works with, and then these are the sales for the different brands. As we can see, he picked up an account, so he doesn't have history for that particular account. So you get a lot. Again, you're not going to get this type of detail just looking at the dashboard. You're going to get this detail by drilling to it and being and making it easy so that the users can get to it rather easily. If I went back into, for instance, highlighting a different rep here, I can see that Nicole has been struggling a little bit. So let's see what her details say. And we can see that, relative to Patrick, she's struggling in terms of meeting her numbers from the prior year. So, Nicole's numbers tell a different story. But, again, you have to get to the detail to get this to actually, to figure this out at the detail level. It matters and it's important. Okay. So, again, bringing in these views, if you wanted to get more data and go fetch another view, you can very easily bring up the connector and connect to it. So if you need to connect once again back into Stratum, you can do that. You grab the URL real quick and make that connection again so that you can grab more views. Just showing you that process here. So now it's making a connection. It's now bringing up the views. If I put in a keyword for like Power BI, it then filters all the views with the keyword of PBI so that I can then pick a view and select it. And as you can see, it then shows me a preview of that data. And then when I'm ready to load it, I just highlight it and I click on the load button and it loads it in. It's that simple. So that's how you would grab a view. If you want any of these other views, obviously, again, you could go out, grab it, get a quick preview of it, and load it in as needed. So, it depends on which one you want to load in. But yeah, I mean, that's how you would do load in another view. I just showed how to connect to the application. It's really, really simple. It's not something that's crazy hard. So if I wanted to bring in another visual, I can maybe make a little room here so that I can highlight a visual, like a pie chart. I can bring that in. It's a little squished, but just kind of giving you an idea how easy it is to configure the visuals. If I wanted to show, for instance, divisional sales, I can then highlight my divisions. I can then highlight some measures of data. And there I've got division sales by actual sales units. For that's last year. I probably want to do this year. So we could see grocery, retail, obviously, bigger part of the biz, food service, smaller part of the business, 28%. But yeah, I mean, I just built a really quick visual using the Power BI interface and then tapping into a view from Stratum that I imported from Stratum. So it's kind of fun to mess around with this stuff and to build these reports. It's actually quite fun. I think it is. So I know it sounds nerdy, but it is what it is. Now let's pivot over to Excel. We have similar concepts here now within Excel. So here I am within an Excel spreadsheet, and I can see that I've got uh, a Stratum option there where I can go get the Stratum data. And once I connect, I click on that, I've already connected, but again, it will ask for that URL. You will then, provide that, and then it will show you the views in similar fashion. If I were to filter on PBI again, I would see all the same views, right? So I get the views that I have available. If I want to bring in a view, for instance, maybe I want to bring in a view, my Power BI view. I then select it and I click on insert and it fetches the data and it imports it into your spreadsheet. So however many reports you want to import, you will obviously search for them, select them, bring them in, and then once you're done, they're all in as basically different Excel reports. Again, they're very flat in nature, very vanilla looking, but once you have these available within your Excel spreadsheet, then you can start building pivot tables off of them, visualizations. You'll have the ability to um, tap into, obviously a pivot table wizard. This is fully interactive. If I want the pivot table, allows me to do some drill downs within Excel, so you can do a lot of fantastic things within Excel. Now that Microsoft has really done a nice job of upgrading everything here and making visualizations similar to Power BI. So here I can see my reps down here and what they're doing this year versus last. Um, and yeah, so and then you'll have the ability, once you build all this out, you'll have the ability to set up go into settings, and you could turn on the refresh option so that once you build this out, every time you open the file, it automatically will refresh the data for you. Um, if you ever need to change the URL, this is another area where you can go into and make that change as well. Um, so yeah, I mean it's the same concept. You would build out bring in some views that you may have pre-built for these types of situations, and now you can then very easily tap into that data without the complexity of connecting to database tables and cryptic, using cryptic SQL or any other types of languages that you would use to manipulate the data. And this really kind of shields you from that complexity where you would just tap into a view or a series of views that you're already familiar with using the Stratum interface. And yeah, voila, you've got your data within these other tools to then build out some visualizations and other things that you could do within Power BI or Excel for that matter. So, and then of course with the drill to options, the drill to detail within the Power BI interface makes it really nice to, allow the users to get to that type of detail and, you know, get that invoice, get that ship to level detail without cluttering the desktop or the dashboards that you'll build. Because again,
you want to adhere to best practices when building out these visualizations so that they don't provide, they're not cluttered with too much data. There's a fine line between what looks good, what's the right amount of data, and what's not. And well, that's a whole nother topic we could talk about. But again, those are some things that you want to adhere to as well, is to make sure that you're just showing enough, and then you can then take them to the stratum to provide that additional detail.